Kentaro Miura, the author of Berserk, has recently passed away, so I guess there's no better time to take a trip down memory lane and talk about what Berserk meant to me, and I kid you not, my story involves steak and lesbians. My experience with Berserk started back around 2002. I had a new computer with Windows XP, a 40GB hard drive, cable internet, and I was finally ready to dive into the world of fan-subbed anime. One day I was in an IRC channel downloading something, I forget exactly what, when I got a message from the guy I was downloading from asking me quite directly if I was a lesbian. I wasn't sure how to answer, since the wrong answer might get my download cancelled, so instead I simply didn't respond. This person apparently took my silence as a yes and kept messaging me, saying he'd send me more anime, and he started pushing Berserk pretty aggressively, saying it was his all-time favorite anime. Now, I'd never heard of Berserk at that time, but back then, you'd take what you could get your hands on, so I graciously allowed him to send me Berserk, and when the transaction was complete, I never responded to him again. But I gotta admit, he had good taste. Berserk was somewhere in the first 20 or 30 anime I'd ever watched, and at that point it was likely the best I'd ever seen, despite its disastrous ending. I also got my brother into Berserk, and despite him not being into anime as much as I was, he too recognized it as a masterpiece. Berserk tells the story of a young warrior named Gatsu, and his complicated relationship with a woman named Griffith. I kept calling him Gatsu for several years, because that's what the fansubs called him, and also, let's be honest, Guts sounds pretty stupid. I think I finally caved into calling him Guts around the time I gave into calling Raito from Death Note Light. Guts' story of personal growth, finding his place in the world, and killing things with a really big sword was all that I needed to consider Berserk the most badass anime I'd ever seen. Later on, I found out that the anime covered only a small portion of the manga known as the Golden Age arc, and given how the anime ended, I really wanted to know what happened next, but I didn't have access to the manga back then, so there was nothing I could do but wait and hope. A few years later, in my second year of college, I was stocking up on anime and manga to consume over my Thanksgiving break. You see, I never liked going home for Thanksgiving. It was too long of a trip for a break less than a week long, and I'd learned a valuable lesson the previous year. Never tell anyone you're not going home for Thanksgiving, because out of some combination of pity and magnanimity, they'll keep nagging you until you either go home or spend the break with them. So I lied. I told my roommates I was going home, and then didn't. I stayed in my dorm, watched Azumanga Daioh, made steak fajitas, and read the Berserk manga. It was the best Thanksgiving I've ever had. I started from the first chapter of the Berserk manga and got up to somewhere in the middle of the Millennium Falcon arc, something like 200 chapters in. My general thoughts on the manga were that the Golden Age arc was by far the best part, and it's no wonder that's the part that was adapted. Everything else was still fine, it was just really weird. All that demon stuff you caught a glimpse of from episode 1 and the last few episodes of the anime was now the norm. Like I said in my review of The Promised Neverland Season 2, throwing in all the monsters, changing the environments, characters having different goals, these all make it a completely different story, and because of that, it probably wouldn't be as good as the parts I'd already seen, and even if it did somehow get that good, it would have to be good for substantially different reasons. Anyway, I knew the story was going to take forever, and I didn't want to wait on it month to month, or however long it was between releases, so I put the Berserk manga on hold, expecting to pick it up again several years down the line when it finally finished, or maybe when a new anime adaptation came out. So about that. People always joke that Miura was too busy playing Idolmaster to finish Berserk in a timely manner. Some even joke that he was going to die before finishing Berserk, and now we all realize that wasn't so much of a joke after all. In any case, the manga was going nowhere, and I'd given up hope on a new anime coming out, until out of nowhere we got 3 Golden Age movies from 2012 to 2013, and a sequel anime from 2016 to 2017. The Golden Age movies basically covered the original anime, but extended the story just a little bit further to a reasonable ending. What a concept! The sequel anime took over from there, and finished up a little bit farther than I'd read in the manga. I know some people hated the CGI of the new anime, but I'm not the type to care much about these things. At worst, I found it mildly off-putting. I thought the movies were fantastic, and the new anime was every bit as okay as the source material allowed it to be. I never thought to myself while watching the new anime that, oh my god, the manga was like so much better. It was just like the manga, weird and dark, with characters who were less memorable than the characters from the Golden Age arc. You know, like the fairy sidekick, scrappy boy, witch girl, religious fanatic, and poor man's Griffith. Long story short, you probably liked the manga more than I did, and because of that, I probably liked the anime more than you did. I was hoping more would get adapted, but I have no expectation of that happening, though I wouldn't mind being proven wrong. I did end up reading a few random Berserk chapters here and there, because some of the manga scanlation websites I'd visited over the years also posted Berserk. Most notably, I read one of the more recent chapters where there's, let's say, a big development regarding Casca, and if that's the end of Berserk for me, I can be satisfied with that, even if we never get a final showdown between Guts and Griffith. I have heard rumors that Miura left his plans with his editor, which is great if true, but I wouldn't get my hopes up. In conclusion, Miura is kind of a jerk for not finishing his manga, and I'm not going to hold back on that criticism just because his body's still warm, but I can say at least this. I like Berserk, lots of people do, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Kentaro Miura, for making it.